Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Brooks, and I am the Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at Illinois College of Optometry. Also joining me, I have Liddy. Liddy, please introduce yourself.
Uh,
I think, there you go.
Sorry, just had to close out the background. My name is Liddy. I am a third year student currently at ICO. And yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit about my experiences and how I've kind of gone through the financial aid process.
Thank you so much for joining, and thank you all for joining today's webinar. I'll be talking about budgeting for optometry school. I'm going to share this PowerPoint presentation with you all. Here we go. So I think this picture captures how most students feel in regards to financial aid. There are so many moving parts in regards to loans, scholarships, all of the above, right? And quite honestly, it can be a bit overwhelming. And I hope this webinar helps give you a better understanding and helps to prepare you to prepare a plan and a budget for optometry school. This is a huge investment, but also a wise one. You're investing in yourself and your career, so it's so important. Here at ICO, we are about to celebrate our 150th anniversary, and this institution is dedicated and invested in our students and providing the best education. And just as a side note, we just released by ICO a webinar on tips for getting into optometry school by our senior director, Tisha Johnson, and two of our third-year students. So I do hope you take a look at that whenever you get a chance. So in regards to budgeting for optometry school, there's three important steps. One, you have to develop a financial plan. Two is applying for assistance, and three, managing your finances. So first step to developing a financial plan, it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. And the financial commitment that you'll be making for the next 4 years of your life. Here is a breakdown of the cost of attendance for all 4 years here at ICO. And in here, I've included the educational expenses and also your living expenses for all 4 years and what the total will look like after your 4th year here at ICO. Now, these next few slides are going to give you a detailed breakdown for the estimated cost of attendance, and this is all for the current academic year 2021-2022. So it's important to know what each year will cost you and know what your financial obligations will be. So here's our first year students. And I've included the direct educational expenses, living expenses. So for tuition, for first year students, first through third year students is at $14,647 in tuition. We have fees available here, loan fees, school fees, books, equipment, housing and food, transportation, and health expenses. So it's all broken down for you per quarter. So for second year students, you do have additional quarter that you'll be taking in the summer. You'll notice that first and fourth year students have 9 months, and second and third year students are in school for 12 months. And this just means that the total cost reflects an extra quarter for tuition and for your living expenses. So for third year students, you're preparing for your board exams. You have all of the other expenses for direct living, for direct educational and living expenses. But we've also included funds for boards, KMK, and travel for boards as well. For fourth year, you finally made it. It is your last year here at ICO, and tuition for fourth year students is this academic year at $11,329 per quarter. So we've gone over the numbers and the breakdown for each year, and by now you're probably asking, how am I going to pay for this? Which is a great question. A huge part of financial planning is knowing what your options are in regards to paying And the federal student, well, I'll go over some of the processes for that. And also I did a webinar recently on navigating financial aid, which goes into detail. So I hope that you go and take a look at that as well. But here's a breakdown of the cost versus federal aid. So again, we have the direct educational expenses, and you have your living expenses as well. Federal assistance is available to cover your cost of attendance for all 4 years, as long as you're eligible. And what makes you eligible? You do have to be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. You also have to maintain a 2.25 cumulative GPA and be enrolled as either a half-time and full-time student. So here we've broken down all of the loans that are offered to students through financial aid. You have an option for a work-study program, the health profession student loan, federal direct loans, and also the Graduate Plus loan. And so you'll see the amounts that are also provided to students. And this is what your award letter will look like as well when you take a look at it through the student portal. So in order to receive financial aid, you will need to complete your FAFSA application. And again, I went over the fine details in my webinar, Navigating Financial Aid. But the earliest you can complete your FAFSA is October 1st. And you do need to complete this application every year. You will have access to use a tool that will retrieve your tax information from the IRS. And also keep in mind that your cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution will equal your financial need. Again, federal assistance is available to cover your cost of attendance for all 4 years, as long as you're eligible. When completing your FAFSA application, you will need to go to the studentaid.gov website. So I want to play this video for you, and it gives a great explanation of our financial, let me get this together. It gives a great explanation of financial aid.
If you need help paying for college or career school, the Office of Federal Student Aid might be your best option. We offer more than $150 billion to students each year in the form of grants, loans, and work-study funds. And federal student aid can be used to pay for school expenses, such as tuition, room and board, and books and supplies. After you've filled out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, you'll receive an award letter from each school you list on your FAFSA. This letter explains both the federal and non-federal financial aid options that a school is offering you. So let's talk about federal aid. If you qualify for and receive a federal grant, you won't have to repay the money. That will definitely help offset the cost of school, but you may still need additional help. If so, a federal student loan might be your answer. Remember, a student loan is just like any other loan. It's borrowed money that will have to be repaid with interest. If you plan to take out a loan, consider federal student loans first. Compared to private student loans, federal student loans often have lower fixed interest rates and offer many benefits that you won't find otherwise. For example, when it's time for you to repay your federal student loan, your loan servicer can work with you to find the best repayment plan for your individual needs. Plus, you may be able to adjust your loan payments based on your income. You also may be able to defer your federal loan payments, deduct student loan interest on your taxes, and even consolidate your eligible federal student loans into one loan with one monthly payment. Federal loans can even be forgiven based on certain types of employment. Getting a work-study job is another great option to help pay for school. Eligible undergraduate and graduate students will be able to earn at least minimum wage. If you have questions or need assistance, you can contact the financial aid office at your college or career school or visit studentaid.gov for more information.
So federal student aid can be used to cover your cost of tuition, room and board, and supplies, as long as you're eligible, as I mentioned before. I would always advise students to consider federal student loans first. There are fixed interest. You have plans that include income-based repayment and also forgiveness. If you are contemplating private loans, there are stipulations that may change. Interest rates may also go up, and you may have to start paying back while you're in school. If you do decide to use private loans, just make sure you read the fine prints and know what you're getting yourself into. We do have students that are Canadian students and international students. So the financing options for them would be you can apply for a private US loan with a US cosigner. You can also apply for financial aid in Canada or in your country. And also applying for a line of credit at a private bank is also an option to you. We also have work study that is available to all students. You can work up to 15 hours a week. We have several work study opportunities here on campus, from working in the wonderful Student Affairs office to working in the fitness center. We also have students who work with our Assistant Dean of Student Success, Beth Carmis, who are tutors and academic coaches. So there's several work study opportunities here on campus for you. I cannot stress enough how important it is to manage your money well. And creating a budget is a huge part of that process. It will keep you on the path of creating financial goals, and it will keep your finances under control. Helping students create a budget is one of my favorite parts of my jobs. I feel like I'm really great at it in my personal life. It's helped me tremendously. I'm a single mother. I've recently just paid off my student loans. I'm a homeowner, so I see how effective it can be. And I like to use that and bring that in into my role here at ICO and also helping out students. Budgeting is the key to creating financial stability and financial success. It's going to help make it easier to plan, save, and control your expenses. So here at ICO, financial aid, like as I mentioned, will cover your educational expenses and your living expenses. The way that disbursements work, you will be billed for your tuition, your housing, and fees, and financial aid will then disperse to cover those expenses. Whatever remaining amount will be given to you in a form of a stipend. So those funds are dispersed at the beginning of each quarter, and those funds have to last you an entire quarter, which typically lasts about 3 months. Budgeting is going to help you stay on track, and it's going to help to eliminate the need to request for additional funds. It never fails. There's always maybe 1 or 2 students, and maybe I'm being a little kind, that ask for additional funds, but things to keep in mind when you're asking for additional funds. The Department of Education will run a credit check, which we will talk about in a little bit, and loan fees are more expensive as you ask for them per quarter. So as we know, emergencies happen, which is completely understandable, but mismanaging funds is completely different, right? It's a different case. My biggest advice to students is do not take out more than what you need. It's important to have control over your spending and your saving habits now in order to set yourself up for financial stability. You don't want to only survive financially while in college, but you also want to be prepared after you graduate. You want to create a healthy financial habits for yourself. And I always use an example of working out, right? So sometimes for me, especially when I start working out, I hate it. I can't stand it. I'm complaining about it, but it's kind of the same thing with your finances. Once you get into the habit of it, it becomes easy and you actually start to enjoy it and you actually see the money that you're saving. So when setting up your college budget, keep in mind you are a college student with college money. So don't spend outside of your means. I want to play this video for you that gives a great breakdown of budgeting.
More items on your to-do list than hours in the day? If you're in college, you know exactly what we're talking about. But there's one thing you should never be too busy to do, and that is taking time to make a budget. A budget is a financial plan that will help you make smart spending choices today while preparing for tomorrow. Budgeting will help you achieve your goals and prepare you for unexpected bumps in the road. So what goes into making a budget? First, you'll need to track your income and expenses for a particular period of time, such as a month. You can use pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or a budgeting app. After that, making your budget comes down to a simple equation. What you earn minus what you spend. To determine your income, include items such as wages earned at work, allowances from family, and student financial aid such as grants or scholarships. To determine your expenses, include items such as tuition, books, rent, credit card payments, and car payments. Then simply subtract your expenses from your income. Are your earnings greater than your spending? If so, you could choose to invest, buy a new cell phone, or simply save for a rainy day. But what if you spent more than you earned? If that's the case, it's time to cut back on your expenses and balance your budget. You may also need to find a way to increase your income. Remember, everyone's budget is unique and it will fluctuate from month to month. So use a budget and be mindful of your daily expenses. That way you can make sure you're spending your money on things that really matter to you. When you budget, you decide where your money goes instead of wondering where it all went. And there you have it, the basics of a budget. Now it's time to create your own. Go to studentaid.gov/budget to get started.
So I have created a sample spreadsheet to help students with their budget. And as you start the process, the most important key is creating a budget that works for your individual need. So the steps involved in creating a budget include determining your time frame and setting goals, right? So you can start a spreadsheet that is per month, per quarter, per year, per academic year, or all of the above. You also want to find a budgeting tool that works for you. I am old school, so I use a spreadsheet, but as the video mentioned, there are so many different budgeting apps now that are in real time that will make it easier for you, especially when you're first getting started and trying to create those habits. You also want to identify your income and your expenses. So your incomes would be scholarships, work study program, loans, your parent contributions. Some students work during the summer and they have a large savings or small savings that they use as well to help during school. So those would be considered other incomes as well. So your expenses would be your educational expenses and living expenses, tuition fees, books, equipment, your housing, food, transportation, health, personal expenses. And you also want to put a line in there for savings as well, because it's important to save while you're in school. So your income minus your expenses will equal your net amount and what funds you have available. So also know it's okay to make adjustments and your goals may change throughout the year. The easiest part is actually creating a budget, but the hardest part is actually executing and then staying on top of it. Hold yourself accountable. Building the right budget for your situation can help you stay on track for your financial life and even after graduation. Plus, learning to build and maintain a budget is an important skill that you want to carry on for the rest of your life. So a huge part of managing finances, it's important to increase your resources and have different sources of income. So as I mentioned before, work study opportunity is a great way to increase your resources. And just a few moments, Lydia will talk about her experience with work study program. Ask your family for assistance. If your parents are helping you pay for some of your college expenses, then make sure to have an open and honest conversation. Take the time to talk over the financial arrangements. Find out exactly what expenses they plan to cover and which ones they will not. Also apply for scholarships. I cannot stress this enough, and I try to make it a deal from day one, a big deal from day one. The more scholarships you have in, the more income you have coming in, the less you have to pay out of pocket, right? So we have several work study opportunities. We have institutional scholarships. We have several opportunities for scholarships, We do have institutional scholarships. Here at ICO, we have the Presidential Scholarship, which is awarded at half tuition. We also have the Trustee Scholarship. We have an Illinois Scholarship for students who are Illinois residents and plan on practicing in Illinois after graduation. We also keep track of over 150 outside scholarships. So take advantage of these opportunities. These are scholarships that are specifically for students who are getting their degree in optometry. Throughout the course of the year for currently enrolled students, I will send out available scholarships to you. But you have to help me help you get this money. Most of the time, all you have to do in order to be eligible is write an essay. Take full advantage of these opportunities. I'm even mindful of when I send out emails. For instance, we have a few coming up, but it's been finals. Students are doing final exams right now. So I know that they are busy. They are worried about getting, great grades on those exams. So I'm mindful. I'm holding on to those scholarships because I want them to apply and I want them to take advantage of those opportunities. So when you see an email from Lauren Brooks, make sure to take full advantage. I really want to see you guys succeed and take full advantage of those opportunities here at ICO. And also on my webinar that I did recently for navigating financial aid, I gave you some other resources that you can take a look at that will help you get some more outside scholarships outside of ICO. So go and take a look at that whenever you have a chance. It's also important when managing your finances to cut expenses. So housing and utilities, we do allocate funds through financial aid. We give students $5,000 per quarter. So it's your responsibility to make sure you stay on budget. So I know people come to Chicago, students come to Chicago and they want to live on Lakeshore Drive, which is a beautiful view, but it's expensive. And again, we allocate $5,000 for students, and anything outside of that, the student is responsible to pay out of pocket. So always remember, you're a college student with college money, so it's important to live modestly and to live conservative so that you stay on track and you manage your money well. So some other tips that I think that are important to mention when you're managing your finances. Know your credit score. Financial stability is so important, and your credit score is like your lifeline. It's gonna follow you for your entire life. When you're trying to buy a house, when you are buying a car, when you're trying to get an apartment, even if you're trying to start your own practice. So know your credit score at all times. These are two websites that are available to check your credit for free. So I highly advise you to go and take a look. You should always know it at all times. So it's also important to know that if you're receiving financial aid, federal assistance, the Department of Education, they will run a credit check. And if you have any discrepancies, it may hinder you, or you can get denied for financial aid due to your credit score. So make sure you look at it now, take a look. If you have any discrepancies on there, make sure to get that handled even before you start applying for school, because that can affect the amount of financial aid that you'll be able to receive. It's also important to clearly define your goals. What does after graduation look like? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to buy a house? What type of practice do you want to go into? So know what you want, clearly define those goals for yourself. Also, equip yourself with knowledge. Financial aid process can be overwhelming, but don't be afraid to ask questions. You're investing a lot financially into your education, and it's your right to know and understand the process and the details that come along with the financial aid process, right? Also, keep well-organized records. Keep track of your financial aid history and know your loan server. So you can always, if you don't know who your loan server is, you can go onto the studentaid.gov website and type in loan server, and it'll give you the process of how to find who yours is. A lot of some students I've asked, I'm like, do you know how much debt do you have? Do you know what your loan server is? And they're like, no, I don't. So make sure that you know. You can always log in and find out that information. You want to know who's holding your loans so that if there's any problems, you know who to contact immediately. Also establish a debt repayment plan. Start talking about this from day one. You don't have to come in on the first day of class, but put it on your list of things to do. I'm always happy to share with students that I recently paid off my student loan, so I like to share my personal experience, and knowing what your options are is so helpful. Having a plan, being able to execute that plan is really going to help, when you're in regards to debt repayment plan. There's a quick video that I want to show you from also the Department of Education in regards to loan repayments.
If you've taken out a federal student loan, there will come a time when you have to repay what you've borrowed. That time comes after you graduate, leave school, or drop below half-time enrollment. But don't worry, in most cases, you won't have to begin making payments right away. For instance, you won't have to start repaying your direct subsidized loan or direct unsubsidized loan for 6 months, and your federal Perkins loan begins repayment after 9 months. If you have a PLUS loan, your loan enters repayment after your final disbursement, but you may be able to postpone your payments. Before your loan enters repayment, you'll be contacted by a loan servicer. A loan servicer is an organization that manages loans and collects payments on behalf of the lender. For loans you receive from the U.S. Department of Education, you will submit your payments to your loan servicer. If you have a Perkins loan from your school, you'll make payments to your school or your school's loan servicer. Your loan servicer can help you select the repayment plan that works best for you. There are different types of plans that you can choose based on the type of loan you received and how much you've borrowed. For example, you may select a fixed monthly payment, but some people opt for a graduated repayment plan, where payments start low and increase every 2 years. If you think you'll need a longer amount of time to pay back the loan, you may be eligible for an extended repayment plan. There are also options that base your loan payments on your income in order to help you better manage your debt. If you ever find yourself having difficulty making payments, contact your loan servicer immediately to discuss the options available to you. If you need to look up the contact information of your loan servicer, we have a great resource available. The National Student Loan Data System can provide your loan servicer's name and contact information, as well as other details about your loan. Visit www.nslds.ed.gov. If you're interested in estimating your monthly loan payments, or if you would like more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
So again, it's important to start having that conversation and planning from day one. Some of the things we'll talk about are what type of lifestyle do you want to live after you graduate? What type of practice are you interested in? Which will all affect the type of loan repayment that you'll go into. There's also another quick video on public service loan forgiveness that I feel is really great. And I would love for you guys to take a look at that. So let me play that for you.
If you work for the government or a nonprofit organization, you may be able to qualify for Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. Public Service Loan Forgiveness is a government program that erases the remaining balance of your student loans after you've made 120 qualifying payments. The payments don't have to be consecutive. You can track your payment count every year by submitting an employment certification form. While you're working toward public service loan forgiveness, you should submit an ECF every year and every time you change public sector jobs. Filling out your ECF annually is the best way to verify that you're on track for PSLF. To help you fill out your ECF each year, we've created a new PSLF tool. Our tool will assist you in completing your part of the form. Afterwards, print it out, get your employer to sign it, and send it. And don't forget to save a copy. We'll review your ECF to make sure you meet all of the program's qualifications. The first Public Service Loan Forgiveness qualification is about who you work for, not about what you do. Qualifying employers include these government and nonprofit organizations. To make sure your employer qualifies, submit an employment certification form every single year. This is a critical step. The second qualification for Public Service Loan Forgiveness is loan type. Remember, direct loans are the only kinds of loans that qualify for PSLF. If you don't have direct loans, you can consolidate some types of ineligible loans into a direct consolidation loan to qualify. The third qualification for public service loan forgiveness is your repayment plan. These plans are based on your income, and they're the only plans that qualify for PSLF. If you're on any other plan or just starting repayment, switch to one of these plans to ensure you'll qualify for forgiveness. The fourth qualification for public service loan forgiveness is all about your payments. Remember, you must make 120 qualifying payments to qualify for PSLF. So make your payments on time, every time, and follow all the requirements throughout the repayment process. Here's a quick checklist to recap the basic public service loan forgiveness qualifications. Most importantly, and we can't stress this enough, submit your employment certification form each year. This is essential. You most likely won't get forgiveness without doing this. For more information, visit studentaid.gov.
So there's also a great tool that you can start taking a look at now, which is on the studentaid.gov website, and it is a repayment calculator. You put in some basic information, where you're from, what your income will look like after you graduate, and it'll give you a list of all of the repayment options and what your monthly budget will look like. Most of us aren't thinking about paying loans while we're in school, but again, it's important to start talking about it from day one. I strongly believe that the more you talk about it, the less anxiety you'll feel when it comes to having to pay back those loans after you graduate. So make it a priority from day one to start having that conversation. So again, the 3 steps that we discussed in regards to budgeting for optometry, make sure you develop a plan. Know what your options are in regards to how to pay for school. Also apply for assistance, and don't wait to the last minute. I feel like it causes more anxiety and more stress. So get started right away in regards to applying for financial aid, especially if you're going to apply for your FAFSA application. Apply for scholarships. There's so much free money out there that's available to specifically students who are getting their degree in optometry. So take full advantage of those opportunities. You want to increase your resources and your income. So manage your finances as well, which is the last step. Create a budget and stick to it. The easiest part is creating a budget. The hardest part is actually executing it. But you owe it to yourself. Set yourself up for financial success. So now I want to bring in Liddy, and I want to ask Liddy some questions. Liddy, are you there? Hey, Liddy.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you again for all of your tips. Like, honestly, it's super helpful for me just to get back in, like, how can I be more responsible creating a budget? I know that I need to improve in some areas, so it was a really good reminder.
Oh, thank you. That's so great to hear. So I mentioned how important it is to increase your resources, and work study is a great resource, right, for income while you're here at ICO. Can you talk to us? I know that you utilize the work study program, so can you talk to us about your experience and how that's worked out for you?
Yeah, so when I first started here in my first year, I was kind of trying to figure out how much can I work and like still be able to balance school. So I didn't want to take on too much at a time. But I just found that like we would get emails that certain departments were hiring, or, there's this position open in the library or in pediatrics, for example. So I started off first as a note taker for my clinical methods course, and I thought that was perfect. And, getting paid to create notes I would probably otherwise take and then share them on our class SharePoint. So that was a really good resource. And then also working in the pediatrics department, basically assisting them with like the front desk type of duties, scanning, filing, things like that. And what I like about work study is that they're very understandable of our schedule and that we're students first. So then after that point, I kind of just got involved, honestly, just through talking to people, and especially with student affairs, with Tisha's office. So I do work as an administrative assistant in student affairs. and then also as a tutor as well. And then I've done note taking like kind of all throughout my time here.
Mm-hmm. So a question that I get from students sometimes is like, is it even worth it? Like, how much money am I gonna get? Is it gonna help? So can you answer that question? Do you think it was beneficial? Have you seen it? Has it been beneficial for you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I can totally understand that. I think that was me in the beginning. I thought, is it really worth it? But then I just decided to, take advantage of it. And I find that it kind of eases that burden of being on that fixed income, just because I did take out student loans. So kind of, as you were saying, that $5,000 stipend that we get at the start of the quarter, that's usually around what I receive. But then I like that it's like an additional supplement to that. So just like, day-to-day things like transportation, taking the bus, paying for gas and groceries, I feel like all of that or most of it can be covered through work study instead of having to rely on like that initial amount.
Thank you for providing that information. So I have another question for you. What advice would you give to incoming students in regards to budgeting? And be honest, what helped you, and what are things that you wouldn't do the same?
Okay, that's a really good question. So my advice, I think talking to people and who have been in the position that you're seeking to be in. So if you talk to upper years and kind of ask them, realistically, how much do they pay for equipment? What are the different options that there are for equipment? And then when it comes to boards as well, like that's a really big expense. And I feel like you don't really think about it first year and second year, but it's something that I wish I had planned for in advance. And I mean, we do see that information like from the financial aid office, but it doesn't really feel real, I feel like, until you get to third year and suddenly like you're having to register and it's $1,000 they have to pay to register for each part. So yeah, it can feel a little overwhelming at times, but I think just having a very concrete number in the beginning and knowing that in advance can help you prepare for those large purchases. And then also I would encourage people to live within your means. Sometimes that means saying no to certain things like certain outings or maybe going on a trip or something. Sometimes you might have friends from back home who are at a different stage in life, but you just kind of have to keep in mind that, you're here, you have a different income really, so you can't say yes to everything. But there's still a lot you can enjoy in Chicago like within your budget as well.
Thank you so much. That's really great. So what would be your number one advice to students we have prospective students that are on the call now, and we have students who have already been accepted that are about to become first-year students. So what's your top number one advice to those students that are on the call now that you think that is really important?
Well, number one, just for the time being, so you have some time until you get into school. So kind of use that time to save if you can, if you are working. I did take a few years in between optometry school or undergrad and optometry school where I was working. And I honestly wish I would have saved more during that time. So if you do have that time, even just any little bit that you can set aside for your living expenses here will help. And aside from that, I think creating very concrete goals, get very specific in what you want your budget and your lifestyle to look like, because then that'll help you hold yourself accountable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can start creating that budget now. Please know that you can reach out to me at any time if you have any questions or concerns regarding financial aid. My information is provided on our ICO website, and I can also share it right now for you here. Don't hesitate to reach out. As I mentioned, the process for financial aid is overwhelming, but I'm here to help you, walk you through. I have an open door policy, so however you prefer to communicate, you can always feel free to reach out. I don't know if you see my screen, but here's my information, my email address, my telephone number. So please do not hesitate to reach out at any time. Liddy, thank you so much for joining. It's been fun chatting with you, and you've provided some amazing information. You are currently a student, so you're living this. You know what it's like. You understand. what these students are entering into, and what if there's any current students, what you guys are all going through together. So I hope that this information was helpful to you all. Thank you for joining. And have a great evening. Stay safe out there if you're in Chicago. It is a winter storm right now out there.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.